Thank you, everybody, for coming. Nice to see you all. I'm very happy that we have managed to do this exhibition here. Thanks to our friends in Hong Kong. Nathan, thank you, Nathan, for Kama, Yen, Daniel, Chris, and Freddie, of course. They're really doing so much work and incredible work that we managed to. This is our second exhibition in Hong Kong so far, and we also did two concerts, which were also organized by the same people. Can you hear me actually? Am I talking loud enough? Okay. So let me start, and I will have to improvise. Shut up! That's what Laibach, thank you. Okay, so what you see here is basically one part of Laibach visual production. Laibach actually started as a visual group, first of all, in galleries, and then music was just the background. It was only an ambient for the tours, for the exhibitions at the very beginning. But then, for some reason, because we were young and so on, we started to like music a little bit more, so we were getting more involved in music. To us, it was a more direct media, indirect media to affect people directly. Concerts and so on. So we put visual production a little bit aside, but we never stopped doing visual things also. And here you can see in the first room, you can see basically the very first, let's say, 5, 8 maybe years of Laibach visual production. At least the principle, the basic principle that happened. We are not showing here, for instance, paintings, which we also produced at some point. And we have produced certain paintings that are not acting as proper paintings, but they are more acting as a kind of manifests. But this is, you can't see basically here. Here you see the so-called, in this first room, you basically see a so-called industrial principle that Laibach has developed. And I will talk about it a little bit more later. Just briefly now, second room is called a simulator. You've seen the big box. It's a simulator which assimilates. Again, I will tell about it much more later. But it is a certain principle again that we have used and that the entire civilization is using now. Anyway, a simulator comes from the recent age. We've originally produced it only. Hello. Sorry. Or maybe there. Or here. Over there. You can sit there. Or you can sit here. Okay. I'm sorry. So a simulator was produced a few years ago only for a special reason, and I will talk also more about it. Then in the third room, it's a very special, I think, installation that was originally created as an idea by us in 1992, and then it went through several different manifestations. And it is called the artist condition, number 1. And it was actually here that this one was actually produced very much with, kind of joint ideas of the people from the gallery, and also from Nathan. Nathan actually here is as much artist as we are. But in fact, I have to say, Laibach does not consider itself an artist. We don't consider ourselves as an artist. We consider ourselves, and we have described ourselves already many times as engineers of human souls. This is a really old Stalinistic expression for artists, which is actually very appropriate. Artists, come on, artists coming from artisans, somebody who is capable of doing something, or just the pompous people who think that they are something special. We are just, we are calling ourselves engineers of human souls, which is a nice Stalinistic expression for what artists are actually doing. Artists are engineering human souls. They abuse emotions, and they, if they are good artists, if they are very good artists, they abuse emotions in such a way that people believe them. And also, of course, they do some other things in Belgium, of course, not only that. But we also call ourselves sometimes unartists. Unartists, Freddy, who is French, and our friend over there is also a big French, would know exactly what an artist is. But it's a coin that it's an expression that was coined by a very important unartist and engineer of human souls, Marcel Duchamp, who is the godfather of conceptual thinking. Marcel Duchamp, he also didn't want to see himself as an artist because it was like, come on, I produced the fountain, the toilet, I can't call myself as an artist. Although, of course, that was the key question, what art in the 20th century actually is. So this is what Laibach, that's what we are. We are a collective being, but I will go into that much later. I think, again, I'm improvising, and stop me, you can jump in, Nina, ask questions, whatever, but I have to say that this is not even a proper exhibition. This is called Ausstellung Laibach Kunst. Why it is called Ausstellung Laibach Kunst, I will explain later. Just so that you know, we see languages, of course, different, and they are very important, and the same things do not have the same meaning in different languages. So Ausstellung Laibach Kunst is a German expression for the closest would be exhibition, Laibach art, whatever. But it's not, it's not. That's exactly why Gesamtkunstwerk is not called in English or Chinese or Japanese, whatever, but it's called in German, the complete work of art. That's why languages are important to understand that, something is, you can only say it in certain language. And we are calling our exhibitions Ausstellung Laibach Kunst. Again, why? I will explain later. But, art as such is not that old. All the art that we know, that we are calling art, like in the 8th century, the Renaissance, whatever, 18th century, was not really art. That was pure, kind of illustration, painting of that actually was serving to masters, to church, to the rich people, to make, people were making their portraits, and most of these big artists that we know, like Rubens and name it, whoever, Tizian, whatever, they all had, their own pupils who were actually painting instead of them, and Rubens only came and do the signature because they realized, if it's Rubens' school, then it must be good. This is a very good painting, so we are going to call Rubens. That's why signatures were there, and even if sometimes Rubens did not really do anything on the painting, maybe just a final touch or something. But this was a manufacturer. Art was manufactured, and they were producing, they painted churches. Of course, they were very good, these painters. They were really impressive. They did sculptures, they did all kinds of shit. But mainly, they were producing, portraits. If you go to British Academy in London, whatever, the Royal, how is it called?
Your National Gallery.
National Gallery. You see all the portraits of all kinds of dukes, and they're impressive. You look at them and say, how did they actually do it? How did they do it? They had fantastic technique. But then, what happened? Photography happened, which has happened, I don't know exactly when. You can Google it, but I think it was end of 19th century, something like that. Photography happened, and suddenly, of course, photography was much cheaper, it was much faster, and it was good enough, especially for those who didn't have so much money to hire, somebody like Rubens or whoever. So, this was a serious problem for these artisans, the painters, What are we going to do now, because, a photographer comes with his funny box, takes a shot, and there's a good air, which is quite good, perfect, and nice. Later on, cinema happened and so on. So this has changed the conception of art, actually not art, but production of visual works very much. And we came to suddenly, at the beginning, end of 19th century, beginning of 20th century, those artists, the painters, suddenly said, so what are we going to produce that people will still buy our works? What should it be? The only thing that we can do is that we do it differently from the photo camera, from the film, from whatever, from photo camera. So we're going to do, a little bit of pointillism, a little bit of impressionism, a little bit later on of cubism, that dynamism, something, lucism, whatever, something that is different from what photographies are capable of doing. And that's how these styles have started to emerge. And that's when artists, artisans, manufacturers actually started to think what art is, what's the function of art. And then very soon, and then that was the third, or which one? Third Industrial Revolution, where the First World War was approaching and everything went very speedy, very fast. The machines were produced. I don't know. Communism happened in Soviet Union. So these were all these big changes, huge changes. And how should art respond? And for instance, in Italy, you had fascist artists who actually supported the regime, and they were totally obsessed by, movements, and also in music, They said, okay, music, the classical music as it was, no longer exists. Nowadays, the music is what we hear outside in the city. It's an ambient music, what we hear outside in the city. So it's railway, construction work, whatever, that's music, concrete music. So that's sirens and so on. So this is what suddenly was a new approach of thinking of art. And also in the visual art, you had Boccioni among futurists, for instance, who was trying to paint. When the famous paintings, for instance, is this running dog, where suddenly not only 4 legs, but 100 legs. He wanted to paint a painting that is, in movement. The other famous painting of that kind is, for instance, Marcel Duchamp, also
The news?
What?
The news?
The news, but the title is really long, the butcher or something going down the stairs.
Yes. Yeah, the news, yes.
So these moving images. And then also Cubism was a result of that, how to actually grasp the two-dimensional or three-dimensional reality relevantly in the artwork. And then they start to invent Cubism and so on. So some dynamics, something that photography was not really capable of doing. And that's where people started to think about art. And that's when the beginning of art actually started to happen. And for instance, in Russia, they used suddenly the Russian constructivism was impressive. But when the revolution happened, they wanted artists to be part of the revolution. And actually also artists wanted to be part of the revolution. And what they did publicly was incredible, was absolutely incredible. Was avant-garde art, so to say, publicly. Of course, later on, Stalin came on power and he shut them down, and he didn't like the too experimental thing because he couldn't understand it. And that's what was the end of avant-garde art in Russia for many years. But what I want to say, artists started to think about art. What is the function of art? And what really is the function of art? I don't know. Do you know? Does anybody know? What's the function of art? Just to be in museums and to be in private homes on the walls or something? No, in my opinion, it's very basic. It's actually, we eat as humans to stay alive, to satisfy our physical needs. We eat food. Here, especially in Hong Kong, this is the culture that is obsessed by food. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. I see people everywhere. There's so many food everywhere. This is incredible. But yeah, people need food to function, to stay alive. It's also very much social thing to eat and to discuss with others. It's almost, I would say, erotic. Or maybe it's a substitute for eros. It doesn't really matter. But it keeps us alive. Then, on the other hand, we have art. What's the purpose of art? I mean, if food is keeping us alive, if it is making us, capable of functioning, and if we are not only animals or predators who are looking for somebody to abuse and to kill so that we can profit out of him, but if we are thinking in more metaphysical terms about the meaning of life, the meaning of, higher things, God, whoever, whatever, it doesn't really matter, but about the metaphysical things, about beauty, content that is creating us as people, that is defining us as humans, which are different from, animals, flowers, octopus, whoever. I mean, some more intelligent creatures. Nowadays, you don't know who is more intelligent, octopus, a dog, me, or whatever. But anyway, art is giving us food for thoughts. That's basically a very simple thing. Food for thoughts. It actually, we are discussing metaphysical questions. Does God exist? What is beauty? What is the purpose of beauty? Is there anything else behind, just pure, basic daily life and so on? So that's what art is doing. Artists have certain philosophy in visual form, not even necessarily in visual form, because art basically is everything, either music, ballet, cooking, football, sport, everything can be art nowadays. Even robbing the bank, as we know from our friends, Russian artist Piotr Bolesky, who worked on the bank in Paris and so on. Even that's art. So art is very much the food for thoughts. And then I have to start somewhere else because I lost my thread. Doesn't matter, we're improvising. Artists. Marcel Duchamp was for us incredibly important artist. Not only artist, an artist, but a thinker. Somebody whom we consider as one of the most intelligent persons ever existing, a philosopher. If you don't know his work, please Google it. It's really, really important. And he stepped out of the usual art, even of the art that was produced by people like Picasso and so on. Very soon. And he didn't even produce anything for ages. He was only playing chess. Chess is the highest form of art, for instance, that's what he said. And chess is music, and so on, which is really, really interesting. And But then you had people like, Andy Warhol, for instance. Andy Warhol was a, of course, great artist. He didn't mind if you called him artist, but he didn't care very much. He so-called invented pop art, but pop art was really invented before by other people anyway, because Andy Warhol, never really painted anything himself. He was also a conceptualist, but he was just a very spectacular kind of person. He realized that he can be even much more than Marcel Duchamp, that he can, because Marcel Duchamp used signatures, but he used different kind of signatures. He used pseudonyms for different paintings. It was difficult to grasp which are really his own paintings, which are, that he did and which are not made by him. He used several different pseudonyms. Andy Warhol signed himself Andy Warhol, and that's it. And Andy Warhol is known also for this, certain things like everybody will be famous for, 15 minutes or something like that. And he was famous also because he said, art is everything that artists produce. Who is artist? I am artist, basically, he said. With his signatures, he has proven that whatever he is going to sign, that's art. This is a certain transfer of artwork into the person who is producing art, whatever art, let's say. So he was a living artwork himself, and that's how he looked also, like an artwork. And everything that he was doing was somehow full of this mystery. This guy is art. Same story is with Salvador Dali. And of course his wife Gala, who had Dali pretty much on the leash. Same story was later on, for instance, with Joseph Beuys. Joseph Beuys was a typical German artist. You can see his face over there. Typical German artist, and these people were all very important for our understanding of art. That was more important than his art himself. Joseph Beuys many times talked complete nonsense. If you read his texts, what does he want to say? He's a bloody hippie, or he's completely stupid. But nevertheless, the way he was inventing these stories was a conceptual thinking, and he became himself a living proof that art that he does, even if it's just the usual felt in the corner, is actually art. Because Joseph Beuys did it. And then, for instance, this is interesting transfer that happened, because these guys, Joseph Beuys, Marcel Duchamp, and even Andy Warhol, were actually conceptual artists. Conceptual artists are those artists that don't even paint anymore, don't even go and do works, by themselves and so on. But they do conceptual art. They are thinking about art. They are thinking about what is art. And there's in Yugoslavia, in our ex-country, where we started, we had a great tradition of conceptual artists in Serbia, in Bosnia and Croatia, and in Slovenia. Everybody probably know Marina Abramovic, a famous conceptual artist. And she now goes around pretty much as a living piece of art. Oh, I'm Marina Abramovic, artist is present, I'm an artist, She's a fine lady, and she has earned all the praise that she has. But her conception, in my opinion, is outdated. Of being, sorry Marina, if you're going to watch this. But simply what Laibach is trying to do is trying to kill artists all the way. We try to get rid of artists, and that's why we don't call ourselves artists anymore. And that's why the 4 Laibach members are actually these 4 instruments. And each of those instruments has its own name. These are the pseudonyms, Ivo Saliger, Laibach, Keller. These 4 instruments we have chosen because these are actually, at the beginning, when we started to do music, we said rock and roll, guitar, come on. It's boring, plus we didn't have any money when we were kids to buy the proper instruments. guitars. Plus there were guys like Jimi Hendrix who did it all. They did it all. What should we compete with Jimi Hendrix? No. So we said, okay, what do we have? We have radio, gramophone, magnetophone, and megaphone. And these are all machines for reproduction in many ways, for reproduction, for making manifests. And our first concerts, were actually created by these 4 machines, plus we created some homemade, even also guitar, but it was guitar that was completely different from all other guitars. So, but this was the basis, this was the idea. We are reproducing something, we are reconstructing something, we are repeating, we are a factory. We are making industrial music. Industrial music because it's created industrially, because it is because sounds around in the city where we came from. It was a small city of 10, 15,000 people. They all go in probably one of your folks here. But there were lots of factories there. And when we grew up, we were listening to the sound of those factories. We worked in those factories, and they were all repetition, which is the principle of life. Look at this city, it's just repeating itself. Look at us, all of us. We are repeating constantly, daily, the same things. Even if we are pretending not to. Today, it will be a bit different. We will have, instead of chicken, we will have pig. And maybe we'll go to the cinema instead of theater, and so on. And but in reality, it's all the wisdom of repetition. It's almost like a prayer, what we do. It's almost like a prayer, a mantra, what monks are doing in monasteries. They repeat the same ritual all the time. And they hope that they're going to get smarter because of that. Not everybody does, you have to be from the right material. But this is the very principle. I mean, we are all told, individuals, individual, we are all very special individuals. It's not true. We are all the same. Individual is a nice idea. It's a nice idea, and we have good reason to try to believe in it. I'm a little bit different from the others. Hopefully, maybe, yes. But then I go to the record shop and I buy clothes that are made for all these different people, and there's lots of different people who have the same size as I do. So that's how much I am different from the others. I'm still one of those sizes, so to say, if I simplify. But yes, we are all part of collective being, of different states, of different ideologies, of different religions, of different armies, of different jobs, of different beliefs, and so on. Like this assimilator over there, which was inspired, assimilator was inspired by, have you seen Star Trek? Star Trek. You saw Star Trek, I'm sure. Star Trek is almost, as Yanis Varoufakis once mentioned, a communist film, because everybody is equal there, they travel around, blah, 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 it doesn't matter. But there's in one episode of Star Trek, you have the Borg civilization. They live in a huge spaceship in the form of cube. And they are already a cyber civilization. They have no human touch whatsoever. Although they took everything from everybody else, from humans, from other civilizations. They were assimilate what they had, and they changed into their collective being because they didn't have their own identity. They had to steal from others, pretty much like we all do. We all do when we are born. We have some genetic, identity, whatever, but that doesn't really make us yet a human being. And later on, we start to absorb things from elsewhere, assimilate things. We learn from books, from cinemas, from everywhere. And this is what Borg civilization did. Resistance is futile, you will be assimilated. And we all are. We all are part of the big collective human being, and that's it. And this is the assimilators actually talking about that story. And Laibach also, Laibach, when we started in 1980, 1980. We didn't have a clue about anything. We were young, stupid, and eager to do whatever, you know, and we had nothing to eat, and we had basically nothing. But we were willing to go out in the life, which we did. And we did, first of all, we created a very important, in my opinion, still very relevant manifest that we wrote. And it's still very relevant. It's incredible how intelligent we were. More than now, probably, I don't know. And that manifest, everything is written there, it still stands. It's a kind of poetic manifest. You can't take it as a proper theoretical text. It's poetical manifest. But there are things there that make so much sense that it's just incredible. And we go later on back to the manifest. But later on, we realized that Borg civilization is practically using the same words as Laibach that manifest, which is incredible. So this is another proof that we are, you know, also part of the big thing. Let me just a little bit hot, so I'm going to strip myself, don't worry. Just take some. No, yeah, okay. Thanks. Actually, I'm going to take this off. I want that back.
All right.
I apologize. We can also stop if you want and go for a smoke or whatever. Okay. Right. So, yeah, maybe it's time that we go with these pictures a little bit. I think we came to that point. So, as I said, Laibach visionary were these young guys. You know, this is one of the first photos. I am not on the photo because usually I'm always somewhere else whenever the boys are doing photos. But it doesn't matter, I'm on some other photos. And this is back in the city called Trbovlje. This is Trbovlje, this is the city we were born in. It's in the middle of Slovenia. I think even now it only has 50,000 inhabitants. It's a really shithole, you can't go there. It's difficult to go with the car. There's only 1 or 2 roads and so on. Even now, although there's a private company there at the moment called Devisoft, and they are actually producing super sophisticated equipment for NASA, for Tesla, for German car industry and so on, and for Formula 1. So things are happening. But still no hotel in the city. No hotel. It's incredible. We do our shows there every here and there. And you know, people who are coming from all around the world, they have no place to sleep. They have to go back to Ljubljana with the train from the 1846 when Austro-Hungary built, Maria Theresia built the train from Vienna to Trieste. And it stops in Trbovlje. I'll show you the train station later on. But this is, for instance, typical picture of Trbovlje, the center of the city, with the monument to the partisans, whatever, which was created by a very important artist from Trbovlje, Stojan Matić. He is a typical regime artist. He invented a little bit of cubistic socialism and so on, but a typical regime artist. And he's from the same city as Laibach, and we've learned a lot from him. The way he was, and also we used, I have to say, a lot of his stuff at some point, because it was already done. Why should we invent same thing, you know? But now at this point, maybe I just realized that I should go back a little bit. If you want me to switch to... No, it's okay. There's one important moment in the history that also has defined the difference between art and Kunst. And that is not Joseph Kunst, but who is another pop artist, successful artist. But actually Hitler, Adolf Hitler, you know Adolf Hitler, remember a little bit. I don't know, is he known here? I know that he's
quite famous.
Okay. Anyway, Adolf Hitler is the guy who killed something like, how many, 60 million people? Which is quite a lot, honestly. Approximately 60, if not more, 70, of which there were, I think, 6 million Jews. Really a lot. And of course, 15 millions of other people in the concentration camps. Anyway, this is Adolf Hitler. But Adolf Hitler was originally somebody who wanted to be an artist. And he was painting. Really boring, stupid. He didn't have any idea. He couldn't paint people. But he was quite good in architectural stuff, in kind of nature and so on, and in destroyed houses and the things. This was good. And he was also good in design. He had some good ideas. He created the famous Volkswagen Beetle, together with Ferdinand Porsche. It's his design. It's very Bauhaus design. Although Adolf Hitler despised Bauhaus. He didn't like Bauhaus. But he also created knives and forks, and he had this idea for the Berlin, how Berlin should look like, Germania, a huge dome with lots of columns, all these guys, they wanted to be gods. They wanted to live like gods in this, like in old Athens, But because he didn't succeed as an artist, he turned into a politician, so be careful. This is really, frustrated artists are very dangerous. Turned into a politician, and we knew what the outcome was. But Adolf Hitler did something very important for the history of art. He put together the art that he despised, that he didn't like. He picked up the worst, the paintings that he really hated most, like modern artists, because those who were starting to paint abstract art, which was also one of the possibility to do something that photorealism is not capable of doing, abstract art, modern art. So Adolf Hitler collected all those paintings, and he created an exhibition. It was his choice, and the name of that exhibition was Entartete Kunst, which means degenerate art, exactly. Degenerate art. But this exhibition was open for the audience. It was traveling around Germany, and people went to see it. They had to boo it, of course. Look at this. But they actually were able to see a really good selection of modern art. And this was going on in some cities around Germany for quite a while, and it was documented and so on. And Entartete Kunst, Hitler was one of the first people who defined what modern art is, so to say, which is bizarre. And he called it Entartete Kunst. That's why we are calling our exhibitions and Laibach Kunst, because we are Entartete anyway. We are degenerate artists. We're not the real artists. That's what Hitler did. I don't know if that's good or bad, but he did an important definition of what modern art basically is. Okay. Stalin, on the other hand, was not so inventive. Mussolini was not unfortunately killed. Well, fortunately, but Mussolini showed quite a lot of style. For art also composed art, but fascist architecture, for instance, is not bad at all. It's actually quite good. And also, fascist artists, they were all pro-regime. Futurist artists, most of them were regime artists. They all supported Mussolini. They liked his compositing and so on. And that was interesting. Stalin, he didn't have much style, but he wanted to compete with Hitler. Yes. Hitler is doing this great, enormous houses, domes, whatever. I also need to have something that people remember. And this famous Stalin cakes, if you know them, there are Stalin cakes in Moscow, Stalin cakes, I think one, and 3 of them. Then there's a Stalin cake in Warsaw, a Stalin cake in Riga. So these funny looking houses that are actually quite similar. Later on, you can see in New York some skyscrapers that are built in the same way. Anyway, they're a bit kitschy, but they're still quite impressive, Stalin cakes. But also Stalin had people like Maxim Gorky and so on, who were socialist. Stalin said, you know, this is too complicated, you know, the conceptual art, you know, I was going to understand that, you know, Malevich is doing these black crosses. I don't know what the fuck, you know, what's that? People don't understand that. Art should praise the daily life, should praise us, politicians, you know, should communicate to people, should be easy to understand. That's what Stalin wanted. And he had quite a big support for that. And that's why socialistic art was developed, which is also a special style. And for instance, this is really socialistic art. Socialistic art, which means that you know, there's no place for cubism, no place for modernism, for any kind of that shit. But you have to depict the person as precise as possible, you know. But anyway, this artist, Garbage, later on developed a style, which was quite interesting. He developed so-called cubistic socialism. I will show later some photo of his sculpture. But why that has happened, this is also very interesting. Because in 1948, Yugoslavia, who never was part of the Soviet bloc, it was always a little bit separated with President Tito, etc. Tito completely separated from Stalin in 1948 because it was a cockfight, basically, between the two, you know. Stalin wanted Yugoslavia to be part of socialist of the Soviet bloc, and Tito wanted to be, you know, his own leader in his own country, so he said, fuck off. And then Tito said, okay, now we have to be different from Russia, also in style, in art. So artists, please create something, a different form of art, something that is differing from socialism, and that is a little bit also going towards Western art, something that Americans are doing, but not entirely, something, you know, that should be in between. That's why artists like Batic were developing these funny styles, which were, you know, kind of cubist, socialistic sculptures, and he created lots of them in Slovenia, everywhere. You can see them nowadays. It's very interesting. But this is how, you know, the ideology was dictating art. This is one thing that we're also talking a lot, Laibach, about being regime artists. Most of the artists, if not all, are part of this or that regime, not necessarily political regime. You know, also it can be also an ideological regime, a regime of certain, I don't know, certain principle, you know, art world. What's nowadays new in art? Okay, we should do the same thing, you know, the same. So this is, you know, this is a certain regime that people are following, and they become so-called regime artists. If we call ourselves regime artists, but I'm not sure if we really are, anyway. So this is the center of the Bole, the city where we lived. Skids were all over the place. This is the National Bank. My sister worked there. This was the first big shopping center. You can imagine built in, I don't know, in the 60s. This house, it still stands. It's you can see it here somewhere. Okay, somewhere. So-called drama, National Magazine, drama. It still stands. I don't know what's inside, but anyway. There's another view of the Bole. So, with all skyscrapers that you have here in Hong Kong, we can compete only with this one from the 60s. But actually later on there were some other built also, but none of them were much bigger than this one. This is from 60s. Tito was a dictator, you know, kind of nice dictator, so to say. He killed people also. Not himself, but you know, he gave orders straight after the war. He killed many people because that's what everybody was doing, and he had to do it also. All dictators were doing pretty much the same things. And lots of, because during the Second World War, he was a leader of partisans in Yugoslavia. But there was also, at the same time as a liberation war in Yugoslavia, was happening also civil war in Yugoslavia between people who were for the king, against the king, for communists, against communists, some nationalists, all kinds of parties. And when towards the end of the war, they all went, you know, all these anti-partisan movements with their families, they all went to Austria to some camps, and then in the end they became unfortunately small petty cash in political talks between West and Yugoslavia. And when Tito wanted to get, Tito liberated Trieste, which was an important place, with his partisans, important place, but Western allies didn't want to give Trieste to Yugoslavia, and you know, things like that. So in the end, they said, "Okay, we'll give you back, you know, several hundreds or thousands actually, immigrants, people, political immigrants, and you can do with them whatever you want, with their families." And yes, and Tito knew that this is the way he will pacify the country. And yeah, when they came, the British, Americans, French sent back these families and these people, these anti-Titoistic elements back to Yugoslavia, and they were all killed, you know, I don't know, 200,000, if not more. Yeah, this is what dictators do. Then he was a kind of nice dictator also. He had a great sense for cinema and not so much for music, but he liked Western films, like cowboy films a lot, and so on. And he was a good friend with some, you know, big stars, Richard Barton, Liz Taylor, Sophia Loren, and so on. Interesting guy. So this is also the Poland. It used to be full of factories, and in the center you can see this one steel factory that does not exist anymore. It has been turned into the shopping center now, rebuilt, torn down, rebuilt. But my father actually worked there, and I, as a kid, I was going there a lot, bringing food to my father, and it was an enormous factory. And I heard all these noises, repetitive noises of the huge machines. You know, I was fascinated. And you can, you can't see it anywhere. The name of the factory, but we actually did a music piece about it, STT, the machine factory in Poland. Okay, so this is a power station. Power station, we had several power stations in Poland, and just recently, for the 45th anniversary of Laibach, we actually performed in the power station for the second time, actually for the third time. And people from all around the world came. But now, what you see here is a power station, but you don't see the big chimney that was built here. Huge chimney, 365 meters. The tallest chimney in Europe, not in the world, but in Europe. And it doesn't, power station, all this industry is not working anymore, but it's all closed down. But we had a concert in the chimney recently, for the 45th anniversary, which was very nice. And of course, it has completely different meaning nowadays than back in early 80s. But you can see this power station in Poland. You can see it here on several places. Here, and here. And this part here, they've already torn it down. You haven't seen, you can't see it anymore. It's actually this one here, and this is also the same part. And this is the same part. See the transformation of the motif. Okay. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah, so that's already the power station with the tallest chimney. And nowadays people are jumping off the chimney, either paragliding, climbing on the chimney and so on. My friend who is a dancer, he was dancing on top of the chimney. On the top it's 7 meters. 7 meters wide. At the bottom it's 30 meters. And it's actually chimney within the chimney. There's this main chimney is like that, it goes straight, and then what we see here is it goes like that. It's actually the support for the small chimney. This is also Topoli. It's another super important venue for us. This the big house and at the front that we see is not here on the graphics, but it was it's called the working house, the working center. Delovski Dom, it was created for workers. In Topoli, the workers' art was so important. We had the line music, which was world champion, working class line music. In Topoli, they were digging coal, so lots of miners' art was there. Miners, aesthetic. And we were listening about miners everywhere, blah blah blah. So this was when it was built. It was the biggest cultural center in Slovenia, a huge one. And in 1980, Laibach wanted to do the first coming out in this house, and our first show, first exhibition, first concert was forbidden. I will explain later why. But nowadays we keep on returning and we perform in this venue a lot. And it's a beautiful venue. It's a modernist architecture built under the influence of French architect, famous one. Which one? The Corbusier. I think these guys there were two architects and they were his pupils. 1956. It doesn't look that fabulous from here, but when you go inside, it's really fabulous. And here at the front of here we see a sculpture of Batic, again the miner. This is already Cubist socialism. And here you see a big mosaic by another Slovenian artist, which of course is showing the life of working class families in Mongolia. And I remember we as kids were totally fascinated by that, because it's really a great mosaic. And you can see later on we realized that it was actually created under the influence of Egyptian and Greek art. You see? This is one part, it's totally Egyptian thing, basically. It's a miner doing his work. This is a piece of coal and so on. It's huge mosaic. This is a family. It has a little bit of Greek touch already. This is the miner of Stojan Batic, and there are several in Mongolia the same kind of style. So Cubist socialism. In the night, a little bit, social touch, but it's very, very nice. This is the same house, originally as it was back in the 50s with kids playing in front. Unfortunately, nowadays they destroyed a lot of it and they built, it's a parking space, and they took the trees off and whatever. They're destroying something that is very, very elegant. In Topoli, even if it was a small city of, as I said, 12 to 15,000 people, we had 3 cultural centers. This was the main one. Then we had another one called Freedom or Liberty 1. And there was another one called Freedom or Liberty Center 2, something like that. Freedom Movement. And this was the working class, the central cultural center. Okay, close to Terbolia and very important for Laibach and also for the whole history of Laibach and for our families. For my father and father of the other fathers of the other guys. Is this hill very close to Terbolia? And in communist times, people didn't go to swim, to ski, to Austria, Italy, whatever. We used what we had around, and there's lots of hills around Terbolia. They're not super spectacular, huge hills, but they're okay. And there used to be snow, and we were skiing in many of these places. And our grandfathers were having parties in these places. This church is actually quite old, and there's a nice contrast. This is, in a way, I'm showing this because it's also part of the principle of life. We have old thing here, old church from God knows what century, and this is also part of the church. And we have the new thing here, the telecommunication, something that is delivering the message. And we were always combining one with another. It was really important for Laibach, it still is. So we had also lots of our own kind of parties at this place. Also in that place, the big speeches from this telecommunication, which is now also closed. It doesn't really work anymore. It works, but people are not staying there anymore. It's all done digitally. It's one of the what is it? The power stations in Slovenia for the signal, transmitting the signal and so on. So yeah, this is important place for us. And then in Terbolia, when we started, we can give you a tire, now we are starting. We are at the beginning. This is Laibach was created in 1980. I mean, we knew each other boys already before, and we just wanted to do something, rock and roll, trying to get some girls and so on. But then we started to think, what about, what are we doing? Why should we have to be different from the others? Etc., etc. Anyway, the first coming out was happening in 1980. This was the time actually of very vivid scene in Slovenia, including Terbolia. And punk, wrongly written here, but anyway, punk was important scene in Slovenia at that time. Very important Peel, for instance. This is Public English Limited. So this is the actual mall in Terbolia. And we said, wow, let's do our show, the concert, the exhibition, everything, blah, blah, blah. But we didn't, of course, we didn't know that we had to ask for any permissions. It was all improvised and so on. And during the night, we have put on these posters everywhere in the city, in the center city of Terbolia, without any permission. It was on every wall, everywhere. I think they cannot take it down even now. So we had these posters, and there was another one, this poster here. I'll show it later on over there also. These were the first Laibach posters back in 1980. And of course, they didn't let us do the show. Not because we had put posters on the wall without permission, and because we didn't have special permission for doing the show, but also because we were using these images, which was, for us, it was just a punk image. But we used cross as our main symbol, which was something that, in the communist country cross was not acceptable symbol, so to say. We didn't understand why, but it wasn't even the Catholic cross, it was just a cross. But many people reminded on the Nazi cross and so on. Although, of course, this is basically not a Nazi cross. And we used the name Laibach name Laibach is a German historical name for Ljubljana, which was originally created in 10th century, whatever, because Slovenia was very much connected to Germany through the history. To Germany, Austria, it was part of the Austrian Empire, etc., for centuries. So Laibach was just a name for Slovenia, for Ljubljana, for the capital Ljubljana. But, of course, after the Second World War, when it was last time used by Germans who occupied the city of Ljubljana in 1943, before that it was occupied by Italians, this was an unwanted name. It was unpleasant. You just, you can't use this name publicly. I mean, you could use it, but you had to expect a backlash, something. It was a combination of the name Laibach, the Black Cross, and all these images. It was too much, and we were, of course, attacked from all sides. And this attack was happening for many years and so on. But we just wanted to, of course, we wanted to provoke, we wanted to open debates and so on, and that's what we did. So this is the other poster. I told you this is actually the very first Laibach poster, which we printed ourselves and put on the walls everywhere. And people later on said, this is Malevich cross. It's not Malevich. Malevich has his own cross, and we didn't know Malevich by then yet. Malevich is very important, of course, Russian artist and incredibly important philosopher of suprematist art and so on. But this is not Malevich cross, and this is what we're telling to everybody constantly. And it's not Greek cross, and it's not Swiss cross, and it's not Nazi cross, it's a Laibach cross. The cross, to us, it was a symbol that means basically nothing, and that is open for different interpretations, that it has, that you actually feel with your own content, so to say. You can find cross everywhere, in all civilizations, in Africa, in, I don't know, people are sending us crosses from all around the world, in, I don't know, Iceland. I even found a cross you wouldn't believe. It's a pity I don't have it on over there, that I will show you. I found the cross in Bethlehem where Christ was born. On the wall, I looked up and there was a cross with the cogwheel, which is another Laibach symbol. Part of the, and I said, was Christ really born again? Yes. What's this? They didn't know. And there's a cross with the cogwheel. And it wasn't us doing it. So this is another poster that we did. I'll go back to it again, but this is one typical case the way Laibach was creating its work, thinking. We call this poster, what's it? It has several different names, but the Tarquini and Lucretia is the main name for this motif, and we did it in Lucretia and Tarquini, yes. And we did it in several different versions, and of course it looks like a punk poster. That was the aesthetics of the beginning of 80s. But in reality, we took it from many different sources. This is what Laibach was doing. We appropriated. For us, it was very, very important, all these things. Reinterpretation, reproduction, reincarnation, recontextualization. Recontextualization is one of the most important things that Laibach practice. So we take things from one context, put it in another context, and it works completely different. It has a different meaning. That's recontextualization. And the appropriation for us was very important because we actually started to do our art, kunst, whatever you call it, at the time when visual art was practically finished, over. People were doing conceptual art, and that's what we started. We were thinking conceptually also. So what can we do? We will appropriate things. We will use found objects, following Zerdishan logic, find objects. We will do collages. We will steal from everywhere. We will borrow from everywhere. We will put a new meaning into something that already exists. And first of all, we decided that nothing is that we don't believe in originality. Nothing is original except what has been forgotten. Do you know who said that? Maria Antonietta, the beheaded queen, French Austrian queen. Nothing is original except what has been forgotten. That's so incredible, fantastic. So Maria Antonietta didn't only say if they don't have bread, why don't we give them the the cake, you know.
But that is like a fake quote.
It's a fake quote, of course. But you know, the whole history is pretty much can be read as a fake history. But this quote, nothing is original. Of course, when we used it, we didn't sign Maria Antonietta. We signed Laibach. What the fuck? Because you know, they forgot about Maria Antonietta. It's such a great quote, and yet. But originality in copy is another very important discourse that I will return later on, and you will see why. Anyway, cross, not Marievich cross, it's a Laibach cross. It was always a bit different. Yesterday, Nina asked me, why do you have, some crosses, some Laibach crosses, they're not equal in, it's a little bit as if we wouldn't know how to do the proper cross. And it's true, we were pretending, maybe, subconsciously pretending that we will be original in doing crosses, that this is going to be our Leibachian signature. Not Marievich cross, not Nazi cross, but of course Laibach cross. This was our first stamp, made of potato. We still use it. It's made of potato. Cross and cogwheel. Cogwheel is the sign for industrial production, reproduction, music, and so on. So here, this is another version of the very first poster. It's actually one of the first paintings that Laibach did at the beginning in a style of neo-expressionism. And it is what did he say? The Lucrezia and Tarquinius and Lucrezia from 1980. It's quite a big painting created on the butcher's paper. So yeah, we did. This is the Tarquinius and Lucrezia. So we were taking from history, pretty much old history, old art, whatever it is. And the new one, Halloween. We're big fans of John Carpenter. And this film was incredibly important. John Carpenter is not only a great filmmaker, he's incredibly huge and important music maker. He did music for his films, minimal music, repetition, electronic music, fantastic composer. So yeah, this is the combination of the old and new. This is Irma and Helmut. Irma and Helmut, some German tourists on Yugoslavian coast. Also created at the same time, approximately in early 80s, big painting. But also it was taken from some old photo, which I don't unfortunately have here. But that's it. This is another original first painting, and where we used crosses also, this time red crosses. But if you go close, you see these collages, and they're all from really funny magazines that we had in the primary school, and we were reading in primary school, so funny magazines. But this was one of the first paintings that we did with crosses. This is again another painting from that time. It is our famous worker. The motive of the worker, which is also one of the first posters that we had. And this motive we've used a lot, and we also did a painting of the worker. And I will explain later on why. But here it's interesting. There's one moment very interesting. Here you can see Andy Warhol's Mona Lisa, the repetition of Mona Lisa. So we started to call this worker Mona Lisa. And here, as you see, that the same motif is actually created in the form of repeated Mona Lisa by Andy Warhol. But there's another reason why we did that, and I hope I will remember. I will go back to that. So that's the same motif. This is another one of the first Laibach posters that we did. I think we only did 5 posters, handmade with photocopy machine, and we put them on the wall. That was enough to have, 100 people in the venue. And we had a noise concert and the gallery show. This is one of the members from the beginning, from the person in 1982, in the gallery with the cogwheel at the back. Another poster from the early exhibition in Zagreb in 1983. The 4 faces, they actually represent the 4 Laibach members, which are practically dead at the beginning, for dead Laibach artists. Don't ask me why, because I don't know. But that's, we like to use that kind of thing. This is the 4 members are repeating here on the top, the 4 Laibach dead members. The name of this poster is The Death of Ideology. And we have Karl Marx, Engels, Lenin, and the 4th one, which is empty, which everybody can include whatever, whoever, but it's basically empty, dead ideology. It's a very early poster, you can see it around. Usually we did these posters for our shows, either concerts or exhibitions. This is another, of course, appropriation and reinterpretation of the famous Munch painting. From 1982 or 3. The figure is put in the context of the entrance of the Pole, of our home city. You can see the same motif over there. That is the entrance to the city of the Pole. Maybe I should explain a little bit about this area of work. This is so-called industrial red district. Trbolev is called, not only Trbolev, there are several cities next to Trbolev, they were all industrial cities. And we called this area the Red District area, not because of prostitutes, there were none, but maybe there were some, whatever, but because of the Communist Party. Slovenian Communist Party was created in that area, and it was a very strong working movement, pro-communist, whatever, before the Second World War, so on. Very strong working movement, and even after the Second World War, first strikes in Yugoslavia were happening in this red district. And Tito had to come many times to calm them down, even first female strike, and so on. So it was a kind of important working place, that distance. Anyway, these graphics, a series of graphics, and there are more that exist. They portray these factories and houses from mainly the Pole, this is from another city, a glass factory, which still exists. Everything, all these other places do not function anymore, except the national magazine is still working. This is not now, but this one, this is fake. These are originals, this is fake, this is not we created ourselves. These graphics we got in 60s, mid-60s, beginning of 70s, from a local artist who happened to be the father of one of our Laibach members, and he was doing this graphics to survive as an artist. You know, he did graphic, and then he went to the factory, he sold them, and in these old times, communist times, factories simply had to buy artworks. They had to buy artworks to support artists, the engineers of human souls. Why not? This is logical. And in the old times, every house had to have some kind of monument, had to have a piece of art as a part of the construction, which is really nice. It's good. And so artists were fighting for this. And he was creating these works, selling them to his factories. And then after he sold practically everything, he said to us, you know, we actually asked him, can we take this? It looks kind of nice. And he said, take it, whatever you will do with it, whatever you want. So these are his works, and this is our work, which we created in the same style a few years ago, really, in the same style. It's interesting that it works, that it does practically, it's basically the same. So it's possible to fake it, you know, as we know, you can fake everything. Yes, we have used that a lot in our exhibitions. And it was kind of strange, you know, but in combination with Laibach, this is really classical recontextualization. It has got completely different meaning, also aesthetically. And so here we have put this monk's head in the background of entrance to the Gole from that graphic. And of course, it's not just a reinterpretation of Monk. It is in a way, because the Gole, living in the Gole was quite scary, you know. It wasn't easy. That's what we thought when we were kids, because it was, you know, really kind of dark place, full of industry, bad air, almost like here. No, it was even worse because the cement factory was producing, and that's this cement factory. White snow, gray snow was falling down everywhere, so it doesn't exist anymore. Now it's a different story, but at that time, you know, this was the kind of expression, Laibach expression of live and die in the Gole. Many people do live and die in the Gole still nowadays, and they're quite happy. I don't know, maybe we have wrong idea, wrong conception. Anyway, this is the same place, the entrance to the Gole. My girlfriend, when I took her first time to my parents, she was totally in shock, you know, seeing this, like, what is this? What is this? This is the entrance to the city. No, I'm not going there, I'm going back. Anyway, it's the entrance to the city. Now it looks a little bit different. I wouldn't say much better, but trying to hide some things. This is the Gole train station. It's still the same. And if you have ever watched James Bond films, in the third film, I think, third or second, with from Russia with Love, James Bond is traveling through, escaping from Istanbul, traveling with Orient Express through Yugoslavia. And he's stopping in some places like Zagreb, and then another place where trains are. And Orient Express really was passing at the Gole, and it actually stopped in the Gole. As a child, I was watching Orient Express when I was waiting for the other trains, and Orient Express came. You know, with all the mythical train that you watch films about Orient Express, read about it. And really, and then in James Bond film, there's this one sequence when the train stops somewhere before Ljubljana. This is the only station before Ljubljana when the train stopped. And he's looking through the window, looking out. It doesn't show what he's looking for, but he's looking out. Where the fuck I am? What is this? You know, and this could only be the Gole. Anyway. So yeah, that's the same monk and so on. Okay, here's another early Laibach poster, which you can see over there. It is called Liberty Leading the People. And we used a Nazi drummer. You know, we're not, okay, I can say this quite clearly, we're not really Nazis. But we use lots of Nazi motifs simply because as kids at home, we still had, our fathers had lots of the Nazi magazines because, you know, our fathers were serving in German army during the Second World War. And at home, they had lots of these really flossy German magazines with all the nice forbidden motifs, and we used those motifs a lot. Anyway, we got the drummer poster, the drummer figure, which, by the way, at the same time, it was used by Joy Division, British band. And we didn't know about it. But anyway, it is just showing that, you know, there were some affinities that we were sharing at the same time with some other members, and also it is showing that originality does not exist. There's always somebody who has the same idea as you have in the other side of the world. So this is Nazi drummer. Here's Eli Lisitsky at the back, Eli Lisitsky construction, the Russian artist. And the face, who would know of you what the face is? And the title is Liberty Leads the People. Okay.
Is it the pupil or the people?
Well, it doesn't matter, people. Liberty, you know, so we use the French title. And for the French version of it, we use the German title. Freiheit für das Passport. Anyway, this is Lisitsky. This is the Nazi interview with Rahman. And this is the face. Do you know what face is this? It's not Marlon Brando, that's what I can tell you.
Russians.
Huh?
Russian statue.
Who?
From Russia.
No, it's from, actually from Paris.
Oh! Okay, statue.
Huh?
La statue.
Statue of Liberty. This is the face of liberty, so that you know. So that you know. Don't get scared, but freedom, liberty has an ugly face. It's not an easy thing, it's not something enlightening. I don't know exactly why did I put this in the pictures, but
Here.
since it's here, you know that we were in North Korea, and we did a great show there, and we used Korean poster, which we found, this is incredible, this is really, really incredible, maybe because of their scale. Because we went around in the shops and, you know, you can't really buy much things because most of the shops don't exist, and they don't let you go around just like that. But here in this place, they were selling posters. But these posters were not printed, they were painted. Each of the poster was painted separately, which is incredible, you know, by hand. Not printed, painted. It's incredible. But they all look the same, you know, as if they would be printed, but they were not printed, they were painted. This is just incredible. So we got this poster and the motif. Okay, we have included our figures and faces in the crowd. In the crowd, you can see me here, Ramar, Nina, Milan, etc. This is another poster from 1983, exhibition 1983. It's a famous motif by a Slovenian female artist from 19th century. Now it's one of the national symbols like Mona Lisa. Before it wasn't really that famous, but since we started to use it, it has become it started to be famous. But what we did, we changed the original painting, which is in colors, you know, really nice painting from Impressionist style, in colors, this old lady drinking coffee, something very Middle, Central European, also Slovenians like to drink coffees. They have fingers like this, you know. So which is correct, how I drink coffee. But what happened? We've turned into a black and white, and it got completely different energy. You know, this is a simple thing, and also in a different context, different meaning. And suddenly this old lady does not look like a coffee drinker, but she looks like Voltaire. Looks like, is it correct?
Yeah, why
Looks
not?
like Voltaire. Voltaire, which is one of the greatest thinkers in France in the world. This is the original coffee drinker, old lady. Okay, once again, we are not Nazis. But we were always tempted with these symbols and so on. This was the poster for one of the exhibitions that we did in 2011, big exhibition in Maribor, in the second city in Slovenia, huge exhibition of our works. And we deliberately used this image. At the back, it's actually kind of abstract Cézannean art. We use this image because one of the things that we did many times, several times, we've painted this coffee. We like this motif, coffee. What is it?
Cups.
Cup of coffee. And this really, Nazis were producing these coffees which is an ideology by itself, the coffee drinking, you know. But Nazis were producing these images, they put them everywhere in Germany on the coffees, which is another bizarre thing, how ideology actually is interfering with reality, with art, with objects, whatever. And so we did, which you will see later on, we did some paintings in the Cézannean style. This coffee drinking cup, painted as if Cézanne would do it. You know? The only thing is that we also included a swastika, but of course it suddenly is getting completely different meaning. Anyway, so this was the poster for Laibach exhibition in Maribor, a big one. This is a poster for our tour in 1983 that we did. We did a tour because Laibach was forbidden back in Slovenia and Yugoslavia from 1983 till 1987. And we said, so what the fuck, you know, we're going to go, am I using this ugly word too much?
We get used to it. So.
It's there, it's just in Hollywood films all the time, so I forget just. So maybe anyway, so we decided to go and to do a tour in Europe, which we called the Occupied Europe tour. This was in 1983 when Europe was still divided. We still had Warsaw Part, the Berlin Wall was there. We still had Western territories like you do, and we were traveling from Yugoslavia, who still existed. In the 22 shows all around Europe, we were working together with a British group called Last Few Days. They also were total amateurs. They didn't know how to do the concept properly, how to organize the tour. So it was two of us, complete idiots, but we were together in the cars, and we actually managed to do the tour in 1983, which was totally spectacular. Of course, in small venues for a selected audience like you are, but a really great tour, a historic tour. There's a book written about that tour, which you can, if you look, you can maybe find it somewhere. I don't think it's possible to buy it on our webpage anymore, but it'll be reprinted, I'm sure. Last 2 days was this other band from England, from UK, and Laibach. We did a tour, and they created their own poster, and we created our own poster. And we started in Yugoslavia, went through Poland, through East Germany, West Germany. They didn't let us to go in Czechoslovakia, But we performed in Hungary, in Austria, in Denmark, in Holland, Belgium, and finally also in UK. And yeah, this poster was in 1983 forbidden in many places when we put it up, because especially in Germany, Germans, they don't like their own past, as you know what's happening nowadays. They are totally nervous about the Holocaust that is happening in Gaza. But anyway, we used again this old Nazi artist. This is actually very gauge, isn't it? Totally gauge thing, you know, camaraderie, brothers in arms, and so on. And that's a typical kind of Nazi aesthetic, you know, which is quite similar to socialistic aesthetic. It's practically the same. But if you go to United States, you can find, you know, similar kind of sculptures there in Washington. I know I've seen some. This is probably what the statue to Trump is going to look like when they build it. Anyway, so this is the other version of the poster. Freedom leads the people, but it's a German version. Freiheit führt das. What is it? Volk. Check it out. Volk. Freiheit führt das Volk. Who said that? Freiheit führt das Volk. So anyway, we took one of the sketches of Delacroix as the main sketch of his famous painting, Freedom, Liberty. It's the
C'est Marianne?
Ouais, c'est Marianne. Marianne?
Yeah, Marianne.
La liberté du peuple.
Ouais.
Yes, so this is a Delacroix sketch, except that you know, you can't see the rest of the flag, but this looks like a knife, which is what we like. Knife. And this is the coming of Hitler on power, and this is the half of Laibach and shadow. Fascism is coming, you know, that's quite obvious even now, more and more. So we are really into how to say, Laibach is very part of. We are very what's the right expression? Actual. So yeah, it's that's an interesting thing recently happened in Slovenian primary schools or secondary schools, I don't even know, but they are teaching students about this Delacroix painting, Marianne, you know, but they, with AI, they covered her breasts.
Yeah.
And it's in the book. It's incredible. It's bizarre. Anyway.
Incidentally or not, phonetically, Delacroix means of the cross.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes, that's why we did it. Yes, of the cross. Yes, absolutely. So this is the coming of the Nazis. This is the same thing as you can see on the poster. Before, in the past, we never really discovered our sources. We let people to suffer, to dig, you know, and they were, oh, they do this artist, is that correct? This painting, you know, people really believe that we are original, although we were saying very clearly that we don't believe in originality. So that's and there are, you know, similar motives also in Russian and Russian art. This is another poster, a bomber, another poster for Laibach and Tour. This is the poster for that we used in actually for our first album, The Image, which was actually based again on another super important artist that we admire, John Hartford. Another poster, Black Cross. This is actually, when Laibach was forbidden in 1980, between 1983 and 1987 in Slovenia, and we were not allowed to use the name Laibach. Complete nonsense, but yes. And this is the power of the symbol, you see. And then we said, okay, it doesn't matter. We'll just put our cross on the poster and the place where the concert is happening, and that's what we did. And people came, they knew exactly this is Laibach, because the symbol was so strong, and they knew, this is Laibach. So we did, like BMW or Audi and so on, posters without the name. The name is not crucial. And we actually said, we may be dirty people as a group, we may have dirty minds and so on, but our name is clean. Anyway, Zesi Nema Marivic. This is a poster for another exhibition in Zagreb. We had to say it at some point, but people didn't get it. Another poster, yes, the Bombardierung, Laibach über den Deutschland for another tour in Germany. So the uniforms that you see are not Nazi uniforms. They are uniforms of the Yugoslav army that I stole from the war and brought to the, because I was taking care for the uniforms for people and so on, for soldiers. And then I brought them to the band. That's how we uniform ourselves. Which is another interesting story, because we believed that rock music, entertaining music, rock music and so on, pop music, whatever, is actually coming from the militant music. That's why a lot of what we do sounds quite militant. You had you have in the army, in the old army, the Polish army, whatever, even the Roman army, you had these big orchestras who were making noise just to present the army on the battlefield much louder, stronger, and so on. And they actually were part of the military, yes. And they went around doing noises, and so on. And this is going on all the way to the Second World War. There's a famous case of the famous American orchestra. What is it? Who died in Germany. Super important. Anyway, I can't remember the name. But every army, even nowadays, they have their orchestras, military orchestras. Police, they have their military orchestras. It's a part, and they're all very militant in a way. But after the war has ended, after they don't have anything else to do, then what do? They go around on the tour, they do some dance events, and so on, but they're still dressed in uniforms. And because these orchestras were too big for touring, they started to shrink, and then suddenly they became a jazz orchestra, and they invited Billie Holiday. She was singing with them, I don't know, all kinds of bands actually started like that. And then those jazz combos slowly turned into, supporting Elvis Presley, and then rock music. If you look back in the 60s, lots of rock bands like the Trogs, Beatles, David Dozy, I don't know, Monkeys, and so on, they were dressed in uniforms. And they tried to dress in uniforms also Rolling Stones, but somehow it didn't really quite work. And Andrew Oldham, who was the manager of Rolling Stones, he realized, you be bad guys. Let Beatles wear uniforms, but we will do it differently. But anyway, metal bands are wearing uniforms in a way. Country bands, they wear uniforms. Everything. Uniforms means, the word itself actually means universal form. Something that fits to everybody. There were people like David Bowie who was trying to escape from this uniformed ideas. But David Bowie was a very special person within the popular industry. But the more you are the same as the others, the easier you survive in the music industry. It's not the difference that makes you successful, it's the sameness. You have to be the same as the others. If you're different. Anyway, so that's why we wear uniforms. We wore uniforms, Yugoslav army uniforms. Also in the Yugoslav army, everybody who could play had to go on stage and play in uniforms, you know, entertaining soldiers, and which is complete nonsense. But we went on the tour with uniforms. Last few days, on the other hand, the British band, they had British uniforms. So imagine Berlin in 1983, Slovenians with Yugoslav army uniforms, and then British band with British uniforms around Europe. Of course, everybody was kind of shocked. All the, you know, the border officers and so on. East Germans, they really liked us. They said, you're good, go through. Polish also, they liked us. This is, well, you look fine. But Czechs, they didn't like us. They said, something smelly here. Anyway, this is another thing which I wanted to show just before. But let me go back. This is interesting. It's just an off thing, but see, do you know what country is this?
Albania.
The black one. Here, the corner.
Albania. Albania.
Albania. The only country that is it's not on the map here, it's incredible. It's a cold actually, it's a black country. Albania is a nice country nowadays, it's quite pleasant to go there. Anyway, here is another poster when Yugoslavia was already falling apart a little bit within this poster, the white region of peace. But you can see Yugoslavia at the back as a whole, where things were collapsing, and there's a fire going up from below. This is another Laibach poster from 1983 that we did for Music Biennale Zagreb. After this concert, we were pretty much forbidden. Not because of this poster, but we did some other shit. Music Biennale was super important, happening in Yugoslavia, especially in Croatia. This was the event where the biggest, the most important music artists were coming, experimental artists from all around the world, including Stockhausen, Cage, Verio, Xenakis, all these big names. And this was Music Biennale, and we thought, wow, you know, Laibach should be part of that Music Biennale. And somehow we managed to get on the Music Biennale, but we had this poster, which we of course took from the Nazis again, that's Goebbels talking, but this is the way how we have understood, you know, the relation between audience and performance on top. Yeah, somehow this is the big shows. If you remember, for instance, Queen. You know, there are big shows where Freddie Mercury was pretending to be the world leader and so on. This is actually the relation between audience and performance. And yes, it is a propaganda thing. Every concert is a propaganda thing. They're trying to sell something to the audience that you know, not necessarily stands. Okay. Anyway, another poster that we did with we were working with Ukrainian Philharmonic Orchestra. Sometimes we do symphonic shows which are quite impressive. Sometimes we do club shows. This is actually original Laibach painting, not painting, but again graphic, you know, the self-portrait of the band in 1980 basically. And many years later we used it as a poster. Okay, so this is John Harfield, the artist that we really appreciate very much. John Harfield is, for instance, one thing that he did that also inspired us. During the Nazi times, he changed his name from Johann Herzfeld, which was his original name, into John Hartfeld, which was an English name. And English were at that time in Germany not very welcome, yes. And this was approximately the same method that we did with Laibach and Ljubljana and so on. So he changed his name in the sign of protest into John Hartfeld. And later on he had to escape because he was a really critical towards regime, towards Nazi regime. And he is one of the top collagists, if not the best of all times. This was also a Laibach method. We were cutting and putting together and copying with copy machine. And that's what we did. There were no computers at that time. This is, for instance, one of his works. Another of his works, where the Hitler's where this is coming from. This is coming from, of course, the money that he was receiving from the back, from the big capital, so that he could create his vision. This is interesting. That's also John Hartfeld. There was a famous speech by Hitler to the workers, and this is really, if you have a chance, try to find out that speech. He's talking to the workers as he has the most mimicry. It's not mimicry. He spoke to them as if communists would, as if Lenin would talk to them, which is incredible, and that's why John Hartfeld has created this. So Goebbels masking Hitler into Marx, yes, which was a fight between Nazis and communists, of course. Hitler knew that he had to get rid of communists, and anyway. We did a very similar thing for the 100 years of Marx's death, except that we have an allegoric figure of Laibach putting Hitler's Marxist period. I don't know why we did it, but that's what we did. This is the front cover of one of our albums, Opus Dei, which was a quite important album. Opus Dei means the God's work, but it also is this militant Catholic organization within Catholic Church, as you know, Opus Dei. And on the album, we also used so the initial image we got from another German artist. This was Werner Peiner, actually, and the name of this portrait, Werner Peiner. Werner Peiner was actually appointed by Hitler to do a big work for his office, but he never finished it. But we used Werner Peiner's image for the front cover of Opus Dei, and this image is called The Terror. The Terror. This was a series of portraits, the Demons of the Hour. The Demons of the Hour, by a German artist, Werner Peiner, which is quite interesting.
What is the date, Ivan?
1944, 46. The Terror of the Hour. And inside we used again John Hartfeld's swastika with 4 axes. It's John Hartfeld swastika on the very same album. Of course, album was a big problem everywhere. This is original John Hartfeld, Bluetooth license. So you could only buy it under the counter in Germany, and Opus Dei organization were pursuing us. But we didn't anyway. So this is I told you before about the working hall here in the hall, and this is the graphic that you don't see here. It's from the same serial. This is the graphic that you see. You can see these graphics here. This is the power station we actually, for our 30th anniversary, not the power stations, the cement, the entrance to the border, for the 30th anniversary, we spoke to the, now this is owned by French, by the way, Laibach.
Ah,
But when we had the 30th anniversary, I, as a child, was working there on the floor and throwing myself in the cement, in the soft cement, which was really pleasant, cold, soft cement. And then I went back home under the shower and turned into the stone man, like a sculpture. So I was full of this cement everywhere. Anyway, when we had the 30th anniversary in Tavoria, we discussed with the factory, because now we are already famous and popular, and Laibach, that's they're almost they're already thinking of building us a monument in Tavoria and so on. But for the 30th anniversary, we spoke with the factory if we can put our big cross here, or at least project it, big black cross as our symbol, for everybody who will enter Tavoria for this 30th anniversary, that they will know that they're on the right way. And they didn't let us. They said, no, cross, no. Put some kind of flower, not cross, no. So it's interesting that, that these things are still somehow, they have the same, I don't understand, really, that everybody is praying the Christ on the cross, there is gymnast. I have nothing against him, but he's on the cross, and everybody's praying him, but they're afraid of this cross, which means nothing. What the, come on. But no, they were not, they didn't let us to do it, so, but this was the big exhibition that we did in the main hall in this workers' culture center. It was a very nice exhibition. So all these motifs, huge ones with the red cross. This is the ladies are watching it. And the president who was on power when we were forbidden, the communist president Milan Kučan, that's him, so in Slovenia, he came and actually apologized to Laibach that we were forbidden from 1983 until 1987. And I'd like to see that the guardian angels, something whatever this is, and receiving bill for Laibach members. But yeah, that was a nice gesture. We became actually friends with this guy, with Milan Kučan, and he was also telling us that Slobodan Milošević of Serbia, he really was calling him every day, that he should put us in jail. You should put them in jail. This is, they cannot, and he was really, he's really small, like Slovenia, but really nice guy. And he believes in democratic values, so he said, no, I'm not going to put them in jail, but they will be forbidden for a while. Anyway. Okay, so here, there's as I said, when we started in 1992, we already created a model of how Laibach is going to function. So this was for us how do you call it? Actually, the graphic principle of how Laibach is actually organigram, how Laibach is actually functioning in principle. We have Laibach Kunst, which is the immanent consistent spirit. The immanent consistent spirit. And then we have the ideological part, the propaganda sector, economic part, objective part, technological sector, convent, where we all together decide. Operative, operational bureau, and the collaborators, the outside collaborators, like creditors and so on, that they have no right of decision making. financial sector and outside sector. I don't know. Conic principle. So that was the organigram of the way Laibach was, kind of functioning. Which is nice, imagine, I mean, you're a young band of, I don't know, 18, 20 years, and then you try to define what you're doing and you make this kind of organigram. Of course, we were copying what communists were doing in the country at the same time, this irrational organigrams, but that's, in a way, that's actually was part of the manifest. Okay, so now we are coming to the manifest itself that was written in 1982, and from 80s, beginning of 80s, do it yourself, not really punk, we were not that much rock and roll, but we wanted to create something that would sound, this is now in contradiction with what I said before, but something that would sound original without trying to be original. So we decided, because we are coming from this industrial area, we decided that because we didn't have money for rock and roll instruments, and also we couldn't play anything really, to be honest, we decided to do ambient noises. Also pretty much inspired by the theories of John Cage, the theories of Stockhausen, and that kind of and Rousseau, of course, the futurists and so on. And this was the basic of our music idea. And that's how we decided to create a sound that would be something between avant-garde movements and between pop music. Very important group for us was for instance, Joy Division. So we said, okay, we need to have a vocal, which we did not everywhere, but we had vocal at the beginning, soon at the beginning, and then we used lots of poetry from the Second World War, partisan poetry. Again, put into a completely different context. It sounded weird, and then we used. Very soon we realized that it would be good to use films during the shows. So we went into the Cinematheque and basically asked if we can borrow some films. And we saw the films that would be interesting, and we put them on our 16mm projector, and we projected films all over the place. And that's what we still do nowadays. But when Laibach started, the other groups didn't use film projections. We were one of the first ones back in 1982 or 83. And also we were trying to, what our idea was that we turn galleries into the rock venues and the rock stages into the galleries. So we did shows, rock, music shows, whatever, rock shows, it's not really rock, but we did shows in the galleries, the music, noise, something like futurists used to do. And also when we did big shows, we put big paintings behind on stage and symbols and so on. That didn't really work quite well because it was too much work, and we couldn't always produce new works this big enough for the big stages. So we didn't continue doing that very much, but we used films a lot. Anyway, just to understand what we are doing, we had this crazy guy who later on did suicide. You have to understand that being 45 years part of this group is not that easy. I'm the only one that I'm pretty much sane. One of the guys in the beginning in 1982 did suicide because he wasn't quite together. But he created lots of these important texts. He did suicide. He hanged himself because he didn't, hasn't seen. It was a tragic moment, of course. The other one, not only one, the other two were both diagnosed with bipolar disease. Yeah. And it's really, it was very difficult to work in that kind of environment. The fourth one, the singer, you know, he's practically hiding himself. He's dressed in an old woman, so that he can go through the city that nobody would recognize him. You know, he's kind of hiding himself as an old woman. Imagine, you know, things like that are happening. So it's bizarre, but we have also lots of new collaborators that are working with us, and they are not yet in our stage. You know. I'm just pretending to be normal, but in fact, I'm crazy. But this is, you know, it makes you somehow crazy, you know, after being 45 years part of that. And what we still believe in these things. We still believe that, because what's happening with older bands, you know, at some point they start to be cynical and they start to earn money and just money, and they're not really interested in anything else. You know, Kraftwerk, one of our idols, big, super, they did, for instance, in music as much as, I don't know, Andy Warhol did, you know, in the artwork. Kraftwerk, fantastic, you know, they defined the electronic music, they defined the future. But, you know, they have turned into the museum piece, and they lost interest into anything else but, you know, earning some more money from what they did, which is fine. Who am I to judge? But nevertheless, you know, we are trying to constantly somehow put ourselves into the position that we are surprised by what we are doing, that we are skeptical about what we are doing. That we create the most important thing, doubt in philosophy. You know, that's the thing that makes us more human, and we have to doubt in ourselves, basically, constantly. Anyway, forget about this. I'm sorry, this philosophical nonsense.
No, it's great. It's great fun. It's great.
Anyway, the first point of our manifest was basically this: Laibach as a team, collective spirit as a team, modeled after industrial production and totalitarianism, which means it is not the individual who speaks, but the organization. Our work is industrial and our language is political. Basically, what assimilator is doing in the other room. This is it. Our work is industrial and our language is political. We were never a political band. We never stood behind any of the ideas. We never supported any political party. We were never left or right or I don't know what. But we were aware that basically the language that we use is political by definition. We are political subjects. Whatever we do, our work is industrial, industry, repetitive, recycling, re-assimilating, and so on. You know, it is not the individual who speaks, but the organization. If you want to be a Laibach member, speak as a Laibach member, speak as this assimilator over there, you know. We can't have democracy in the band, you know, it doesn't work. Democracy is just a pretext for something, you know, it's kind of nonsense. Anyway, Laibach analyzes the relationship. This is very important. What we are doing, in fact, with our art, we analyze the relationship between ideology and culture in the late period as presented through art. So yes, not the tree outside or whatever, you know, is our basic inspiration. No, it's the art history as such. Art history is the one that is basic inspiration for Laibach. But not only art history, also political history, also whatever you consider, you know, whatever exists in the past. The tension between the two and existing disharmonies, social unrest, and visual frustrations, ideological oppositions are sublimated by Laibach, practically assimilated, thoroughly eliminating it. It's just that, you know, it's poetical language. We wanted to sound as a manifest, so you know, it sounds a little bit over the top. But here's another very important thing. The very name as well as the symbol are visible materializations of the idea on the level of conceptual symbol. This is very important. We knew that the name, you can't have some stupid name and do what we do. The name has to be edgy. It has to be, sharp. It has to be forbidden. It has to be something that has negative energy, if necessary, because we are purifying it. And the same goes for the symbol. Symbol is the materialization of the idea of Laibach. Name Laibach suggests a concrete potential for emergency of politicized ideological art due to the influence of politics and ideology. Plain and simple, I don't, we were much more intelligent than we are now. Yeah. And this is the most important one. All art is subject to political manipulation, except for that it speaks the language of the same manipulation. To speak the political language means to expose and acknowledge the omnipresence of politics. Anyway, this was the first part is important. All art is subject to political manipulation, except for that it speaks the language of the same manipulation. We did that a lot. We were using the political language in our interviews, early interviews and so on, and statements. And the politicians were getting really crazy. What are they saying? They're just repeating your nonsense. What are they saying? But they didn't recognize their own words. And the lots of artists are saying nowadays, oh, we are not political, we just make music. Then they play music for, I don't know, for this party or that party or whatever. Everyone, all art is political, subject to political manipulation. Except for that which speaks the language of the same manipulation. This is what I know. And if we were ever manipulated by politics, I promise you, I don't know. I didn't know. Okay, internal structure operates on the directive principle, blah blah blah, symbolizes the relationship between ideology and individual. What's important is we were denying individuality, and we wanted to get rid of this. I'm the big artist is present. No, we took the name of the four pseudonyms. We took 4 pseudonyms that you can see over there. Each of the member symbolically, if there were more members in the group than 4, we always said it's how many people we see on stage. Even if there were 6 people, we said there are 4 people. You only see 4. How many do you see? 6? No, you see 4. It doesn't really matter, but 4 is enough basically. You have John Paul, George, Ringo, you have 4 Laibach, 4 Grafberg, and so on. The 4 presidents, the one that is missing, 4 is enough. So Ivo Saliger, these are actually the real artists from the Nazi era. Not a bad artists at all, but not a very good one also. They were a proper regime artists. They did what the regime was telling them to do. And they were very praised as an artist. And this is what most artists are doing. They do what the regime is telling them to do, unfortunately. Lots of them, most of them, not everybody, but most of them. So, these 4 names we have chosen to be engineers of human souls, regime artists. We are the regime artists by definition. We, if nothing else, we follow Laibach, which is our totalitarian entity. The flexibility, an arbitrary number of sub-objects. Sub-object is a nice expression that we get invented. We are not objects, we are not subjects, we are sub-objects. The flexibility and anonymity of members prevent possible individual visual deviations. If somebody goes crazy, another one will jump in, and that's it. And the factory is continuing. That is pretty much how banks are working. Is it true? Banks. It's also how big companies are working. And after all, even the Rolling Stones. They lost a few members who had died, and they put another one on stage in the back somewhere behind the curtain. Kraftwerk also. So that's a principle of the collective being, the collective society. Yeah. Okay, so this is another interesting one. Expressed through every medium according to its own logic. So we were taking inspirations from everywhere, from Taylorism. You know what Taylorism is? It's industrial production. Nazi Kunst is it's a perfect example of the relation between art and ideology. Disco, the pop media, the pop form. So put that all together and we get approximately what I want is. Yeah, this is another complicated one, but let's just let us communicate through non-communication. This one is a bit tricky nowadays. That we communicate exclusively through non-communication. As you can see, I talk to you directly here. So I don't know how much communication there is, but here you can ask me things and we will discuss. But nowadays, there's a big communication going on the internet, in social media. But in reality, do we really communicate through social media? We don't. And Facebook is the biggest nonsense. I mean, come on. There is a principle of communication, like democratization of internet and etc. But it's nonsense. It's a totalitarian structure, completely opposite from what it is trying to present. It doesn't. There's no communication there, no nothing. It is basically killing of any reasonable communication. Even if there are good things, you can sometimes find good things on social media. But 5 minutes later you look at them, they're vanished. Where are they? They're gone. It's the same situation as death. We used to have people who were dying, our friends who were dying. We were really full of sorrow. But nowadays anymore, because death has become so pathetic. It doesn't really work anymore. It's nonsense to die. If you want to die, go somewhere, don't tell anybody, vanish, it's just nonsense. It's not dignified anymore. Because next day there's another person coming who wants to die, and you have to deal with him and so on. That's why, sorry, I went to see the 6-7 houses burning down yesterday, which is
Ivo?
what?
Ivo.
Yeah, the big tragedy. In my opinion, if that would happen to Slovenia, half of the nation would vanish. But here, people. Of course, I believe that there's mourning going on and so on. But I can see that the basic principle, life was going on. It was sunny yesterday. Children were playing. Old people were, in the same area. I mean, it's incredible. Life goes on. Who cares about death? Who cares about mourning? It's not relevant anymore. The same is with communication. We don't know how to communicate. This was one of I think the first small poster and leaflet that you put to people to come to see the exhibition. It's one of our exhibitions in Belgrade. It happened in, I think, 1981. And this was the call exhibition. Okay, we see Hitler coming to see the great German art. The ideology is coming to see the product of its own ideology. And this was our print for our early exhibitions for the audience. Of course, they told us that we are Nazis. And here is again part of our manifest on the other side, a very important one. But this is the manifest, the part of the manifest. Art and totalitarianism are not mutually exclusive. Totalitarian regimes abolish the illusion of revolutionary individual artistic freedom. Totalitarian regimes are not only communist and fascist and so on. Totalitarian regime is, nowadays, social media, internet, AI, etc. Laibach is a principle of consciousness. Conscious renunciation of personal taste. Many people are saying, "Oh, I don't like this painting." So what the fuck? What does it mean you don't like this painting? Does it mean that this painting is bad or that you don't like it? I mean, that your taste is not, synchronized with it. Taste has nothing to do with the real value of a piece of art. People didn't like Marcel Duchamp fountain, the toilet. It was too radical. The person didn't like it. He couldn't even get the exhibition. But nowadays it's one of the most important, pieces of art in the history that define the future art. Who couldn't like the toilet, soir, whatever. It's not the liking. So we have renunciation of personal taste, judgment and belief, free depersonalization, voluntary assumption of the role of ideology, demasking and rectification of regime, retro-avant-garde. The term retro-avant-garde is a coin that Laibach has invented in 1983. This is a coin that we have invented, retro-avant-garde, which is a description of what we were doing on the level of cognitive level. We were taking, so we're not avant-garde, we are retro-avant-garde, which is, later on it has become the term that some theoreticians started to use and discuss and so on. And now it has become quite relevant art historian term, retro-avant-garde. Laibach invented it, although we stole it somewhere. It doesn't mean. So here this we usually change always in the end. There's always some regime that you have to demask and break and go against. Here we are going against ourselves, which is necessary also. We have to break ourselves to go further. There's another manifest that we did. We reject individuality, blah blah blah. Copies have never existed, and we could recommend paintings based on paintings made before our time. We claim that art cannot be judged from a temporal point of view, and so on. Here I will go towards here, to this installation. It is the multiplied worker with the monarch of the glen. Here we are saying that copies have never existed, which is the same as basically saying that originals do not exist. But here we are actually proving that each copy is in a way original, because each copy was printed from the second painting, the second graphic on the top was photocopying from the first graphic, the third one from the second, etc., etc. That's why they're vanishing towards the end. So each of them is actually, each copy is original to a certain extent. But this is fake, I have to tell you, because you don't have such a bad copy machines nowadays. We have to fake it with computers. But in the old times we used photocopy machines, and we really did the first one second one from the first one, third one from the second, etc., etc. And each of the copy was actually original. So, from that perspective, of course, original does not exist. Yeah, monumental retro-avant-garde. Laibach Kunst marks the end of the era of blah blah blah. This is pretty much nonsense. A reconstruction of the past, progression of the new artistic level. We were just, kidding. We were going against all the other artists. Depersonalization of the author, that's fine. Self-reproduction, that's fine. Gleichschaltung. Laibach Kunst preserved lasting values, whatever that means, Okay, do you want me to stop here? Do you have enough? I can continue, of course, but if you have good fun, I can continue. But we can stop and we can chat, we can talk, we can maybe have a party.
I think you've given us a lot to chew on.
Go on, yeah. Let me just see if there's anything that I would really want to know. Because this is nothing. This is the first. Our first album was forbidden. There was no name, and that's why we used only this image. And again, it's inspired by John Garfield. This is the design for the monochrome albums record creation that has each of the two albums inside. Each of the sides has a different something that is related to the word array. Recapitulation, reinterpretation, re-innovation, I don't know, So array is a very important word for Laibach, always was. This motif is a typical of Slovenia. It's a haystack. It's where the peasants are putting in hay to dry. And on this kind of structure, our member Tomasz Hostnik, our dear member, hanged himself when he was 21 years old. In the typical Slovenian kind of, national symbol, which is quite funny. I mean, he had a sense of humor. So this is another case, another design for an album where we use more of the gland, the motif there, in the environment of Anselm Kiefer, which, of course, this is a famous environment. It's from the Nazi times. I think is it Hitler's office or something, or the modern art museum from the Nazi era in Munich or somewhere. Okay, we've seen this Opus Dei. This is interesting. Opus Dei cover, and this is the Laibach singer from that time. Originally we had mustaches, but because of we did mustaches on this. We had put mustaches on this. This guy.
Now we know why.
We put mustaches on this guy, and then he had to do mustaches also to look like the terror himself by I told you before, by the German artist. And we did a famous cover on this album by the Queen, One Vision, that we did it in German language, which sounds incredible. It sounds like a bloody Nazi anthem. Ein Fleisch, ein Blut, ein wahrer Glaube, eine Rasse und ein Traum, ein starker Wille. In English, it doesn't sound anything. This is the difference between English and German language. In English, it sounds one flesh, one blood, one true religion, one something. It sounds, like an English joke, but in German language, it sounds pretty difficult. And that's why, of course, the reference to Freddie Mercury, and they're really similar. And this is the new cover that we have redesigned recently, and it's actually the face of our singer. This one, the real one. This is the real face of our singer, and it's a photo of him standing in the same position as the original painting. And this is once again that painting that we used as the motif. We put him, of course, in front of the famous American artist Jasper Jones' American flag. And this is in front of Hermann Nietzsche, who is our dear friend. This is a sympathy for the devil. We did a version of Rolling Stones. This is Let It Be. We did the entire album of Beatles covers, Let It Be. It's really fantastic. I mean, first when it was released, everybody said, this is so terrible, who's going to listen to this? But then 6 years later, you know, the reviews started to get out. This is a masterpiece. It's a really approach to art. Okay, that's Across the Universe cover. Another, yeah. So this is the opening of one of the early Laibach exhibitions in 1982-83 in Ljubljana. You can see. This is the first singer, and this is the current singer here standing without mustaches and without his hair. Very young guys. And this is another member of Laibach, very important, you know, the crazy one, where everybody's crazy. And this is the way we did concerts on exhibitions. Tomasz Rostik is the one on the left, and he committed suicide. That's the audience watching a concert. It's very interesting. And then if you're going to look at this book that we have, we recently, last 2 years ago, we did the same exhibition. We kind of recreated the same thing in the same gallery. You see on the left on top this swastika painted in kind of Renoir style, not Renoir, what is it? Cézanne style. This is how the opening of the exhibition used to look like. You know, people drinking, and this is our invention. We created chess for four players. And if you look carefully, you're going to see Marcel Duchamp's profile here, and here, and here, and here, Marcel Duchamp. Again, we were inspired by Marcel Duchamp, but you know, it is chess for four that we have created. Inspired by Marcel. This is his famous chess play that he did with Yves Babitz at the Pasadena Art Museum in 1963, when he had finally a big exhibition, and in front you can see his big glass.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Another one from a different angle. This is Marcel Duchamp playing with John Cage, explaining to John Cage the music theory of chess. He's letting John Cage the music theory of chess, imagine. And as you can see there's lots of cables that are producing probably sounds depending on where how the combinations were on the table. And this is Laibach playing chess. Actually, we did this action because we were asked to do a cover version of John Cage, 40 Minutes Therapy, which is the famous, totally quiet, you know, quiet thing. And you can find it on the YouTube. Laibach 40 Minutes 33. And here at the back, the woman at the back, the naked woman, she's actually a very important Croatian conceptual artist, Vlasta Dermak. She is known for doing, you know, kind of daring performances. She was going through the city of Zagreb on the white horse, naked, you know, things like that. And she likes to be naked. So we needed a naked artist, and Vlasta is our dear friend, so she was there. So this is a monarch of the Glen. Maybe I should just quickly explain this. I'm sorry that I'm following you. Monarch of the Glen is one of the typical Laibach motifs that you can see it there. Who's supposed to be a big original on the wall of copies of the soldiers without faces, etc. Monarch of the Glen was painted by Sir Edwin Lunsford. Sir Edwin Lunsford was a great British, if not Scottish, I'm not sure, painters, and he was asked by the Parliament, the upper home of Parliament, to paint, this motif, the monarch of the Glen, the deer of the whatever of the Glen, and he said, okay, I'll do it. But in the end, the Parliament didn't want to buy his painting, this painting, because he cut the legs of the deer too much, apparently. So Sir Edwin Lunsford has sold it to Scottish Post Office. And Scottish Post Office did a brand out of this painting. They made a postmark, they made whiskey, Glenfiddich, and all kinds of things. They were selling Campbell soup, you can find it there. You can see this brand everywhere. So it has become a multiplied, one of those, the original is based somewhere in the National Gallery, but all these copies are going around. And for instance, in 1964, Paul McCartney, one of the four Beatles, has asked a great and important artist, Peter Blake, the British pop artist, Peter Blake, if he can make a copy of Monarch of the Glen for Paul McCartney, so that he would have it on the fireplace, because obviously we couldn't buy the original one. But Peter Blake was quite an important artist, pop artist, not yet as important as it is nowadays. But Peter Blake did the design of such papers on the Hudson Bank. So he said, yes, I'm going to do this for you, for Paul McCartney. And this is what Peter Blake did for Paul McCartney. After the Monarch of the Glen by Sir Edwin Lunsford, Peter Blake, 1966. 1966. In 1982, Tomasz Hosnik, the Laibach guy who made suicide, he actually came with a copy of the Monarch of the Glen, pretty much like this one. This one was created here, so it's a copy of whatever. When we were doing exhibition in Ljubljana, we wanted to put only this idea of the word minor that is repeating, and each copy is original. But then Tomasz has brought the painting, and we put it in the center. So that's completely, kind of an additional dimension of something that should be original. In fact, it's a trademark of copied many times. This is another important British artist, Peter Sellin. He did a design for Joy Division, for New Order and so on. And he did after Monarch of the Glen by Sir Edwin Lunsford, by Sir Peter Sellin. So it's, this is a not unending story. This is for our installation at the very first time in Ljubljana. And you can see we were, in the end, there was a missing one, we couldn't count, how many do we need. And there was one that turned upside down, which is here also. By mistake, obviously, but it doesn't really change the idea. So this is a Tomasz Hosnik who actually made his version of Monarch of the Glen. We brought it with him to the exhibition and we posted on. Several different options, exhibitions. And this motif has kind of stayed with us, the motif of the there. And we also started to use, instead of the military uniforms, we started to dress in the hunting uniforms. Hunting uniforms, and this is very interesting because we took those, we bought those hunting clothes everywhere. We did something in UK, something in Germany, something in Slovenia, and we went around with those uniforms, with trousers to here. For instance, we walked in New York, and people were staring after us, like a total miracle. It's incredible, I've never seen something like that. We didn't realize that this is so interesting, And again, everybody was saying, journalists were saying, they dressed in some kind of national clothes, nationalistic clothes. No, it was a mashup of all this, because every culture has this same aesthetics everywhere. You can find hunting uniforms everywhere. Maybe you remember the actor Walter Gottheil. He acted in James Bond again, James Bond reference. He was a General Gogol in James Bond. You remember? All the James Bonds, General Gogol, Russian General Gogol, he was the head of Russian Secret Service. Walter Gottheil. Anyway, I met Walter Gottheil. We met him at the embassy, actually consulate, British consulate in San Francisco, I think, or LA, San Francisco, because they invited us. We were part of the LA Festival Park back in the 80s, and we were in those uniforms, and Walter Gottheil and his wife, they were getting totally crazy, And then we spoke with Walter Gottheil, and he explained us, how he was doing James Bond films, and he also gave us put us in touch with Jerry Goldsmith, not Jerry Goldsmith, with the guy who did music for James Bond. What's his name? John Barry, yes, John Barry. So it's due to those uniforms. I mean, we had this. When we went on tour, we didn't take with us guitars and so on, but we took their head, we took axes, log of wood, things like that. A rabbit, living rabbit for us, because we needed for this one track. You were challenging. Don't piss on me. He was pissing on the singer for the rabbit. Yeah, so we did this motif in many different variations, and here you can see an exhibition in Laibach where children are actually teaching, together with our paintings, and so they produced many different variations. Okay, this one motif, this important motif, the worker. So this is the name, the face of the guy, the worker. This is interesting in Yugoslavia, where the ideology itself was saying that we are all equal and so on. But then they were putting out these workers, like the best workers, and they rewarded them. And this man is called, he was called as the best worker of the era, of the time. His name is Alija Silotanovic, which literally in translation means poor Alija. Alija, very poor. Silotanovic means poor, he has nothing. This guy, and so he was put on the 10-liter banknote in Yugoslavia. Everybody was dealing with his money back in Yugoslavia, But this guy died really poor after he ended life. He died really poor. And this is another worker that they were talking about. Anyway, so these are some paintings that we did, different kind of paintings, graphics. We did the sculpture of the worker. So we gave him the sculpture to this unknown worker in front of one of our exhibitions that we had in Ljubljana. He's breaking the glass here. And actually, there was nothing here on this podest. There was nothing here because they removed the podest of a general from Austro-Hungarian times. And we said, okay, let's put our worker on the podest. So you can see the variation, a very glossy variation here, which is kind of nice. Even the worker can be super glossy, modernist. This is from another exhibition in. This is in a church in Mula that we did. You can see manifest on the floor, which is for Laibach members. Another Laibach art, whatever. This motif we used a lot. The motif was sower, and again you can find it in every possible culture, even in Arab. Even Christ was a sower. Even in Nazi Kunst was a sower. So this is an interesting painting that we did. It's a found painting. We found it. We added some of the marks here. We added Malevich grave. Malevich grave was unknown. We didn't know where Malevich grave is. And we added this grave, discovered Malevich grave. And then we discovered it soon after Malevich grave. And here at the back, this reminded us a little bit of early Malevich paintings, and we added the sower to the field. So it's one of those paintings. And the background looks like in the valley of the Gole. Tomasz Hosnik in the uniform. This is when he was performing in a big concert and somebody threw a bottle into his face, but he didn't go backwards, but he went forwards. He had incredible guts, and he was here impersonating partly Mussolini, but also very much Slobodan Milosevic when he was not yet on power at all. This was in 1982. So Slobodan Milosevic came on power in 1987. And he had a lovely sense of humor. This is his self-portrait, and we are doing occasionally we do this is occasionally we do something in relation to Tomasz. Music Biennale, I spoke before that we managed to get to the Music Biennale. Yugoslav uniforms, not Nazi. This is the second singer, 1983, after Tomasz Hosnik left. This is how the picture of the Music Biennale looked like. In the middle of the night. What was the problematic? We were projecting this film about Yugoslavia was already falling apart in 1983 very much. Since our people died in 1980, and then the system was falling apart. But we were projecting this film about, that was really propaganda film about how good life in Yugoslavia is, which was of course not fake at that time already. It was like a pornography. And that's why we have also projected the super 8mm pornographic images onto the main visual, and that was what happened. That's why later on suddenly was forbidden, because one of these are all visuals from Yugoslavia, but that happened finally that also Vito has received his portion. And recently we have apologized to Vito. But this is all from Yugoslavia, the images of the guys on the girls. And here's Tito, but he has received his part of pornography as well. Why not? And then they wanted to stop Laibach, and they said, okay, the best thing to do, this is actually one of our most successful actions. The best thing to do, how to kill Laibach, was to invite them to the public interview. There was only one television in Slovenia with 2 programs, and most of the people had black and white programs then. So they said, okay, let's invite them to this TV interview. We will put the best TV guy, person who will put questions, and they will get lost. They will jokes of themselves. And we realized that they're preparing a threat, and we said, okay, let's make this, let's use this, let's make an art action out of it. And we were again dressed in the Yugoslav uniforms with Laibach crosses. And we were sitting like this, totally quiet. We didn't move for the whole interview. We've prepared some answers that our singer was reading. The answers, and it was exactly the political talk that I was explaining you before. And next day we were attacked from everywhere. Totally attacked the whole country. At least 500,000 people has watched this show, and we had to hide for a while. We had to hide because the journalist, actually, in the end of the show, has called out. He has used the media, the public television, and he called up audience. He said, "Now, I hope that somebody will finally stand up and do something to crash these dangerous ideas here in the middle of Slovenia." And there was no dangerous ideas. We didn't say anything that would be really dangerous. But they had this preconception, and because we looked like dressed in uniforms, and we were quoting Yugoslavian politicians and so on. They didn't, the whole interview, you can find it on YouTube, just was too much. And people were shocked, totally shocked. We had to hide for a while in the monastery because it was quite dangerous in that period. But this was a successful action. Unfortunately, what they did that we expected, they were putting this interview between the two other blocks of program. One was about Austrian neo-Nazis making problems to Slovenian minority there, and the other one was Italian fascists making problems to Italian minority in Italy. And in the middle, it was Laibach, and like, oh, we have this, whatever they are, Nazis back home. And but we were not. We were nice boys, as you can see, standing in front of some bank or something. These are the uniforms. This is from an exhibition in Poland. The big painting is showing actually the moment when a Polish fan, when we had a press conference in Poland, exactly like this, we were sitting in front on the table, dressed in the Yugoslav uniforms, army in 1983, and Polish fans, somebody was asking, is any of you a member of Communist Party? Of course we were not. But we said, yes we are, because we knew that Polish people hated communists. Yes we are. And then, later on in the press conference, one of the Polish guys has brought us this something warm wrapped in the paper, and in the political Tribuna Ludo Polish magazine, and it was wrapped in this paper, Tribuna Ludo, and it was this piece of shit, which we later on actually turned into the art piece. This is China actually now. It's made in China, also the magazine and so on. It's really, really good quality. And sometimes we do exhibit. Okay, this is from some exhibitions. As you can see, this is the same artist who you would. This is from 1983. The same artist who was later on with us on the chess game. Last November, and some other Croatian scene 1983. You can see her here on the left. And this is another exhibition that we did in 1983 in Zagreb. It was also, they closed it down because we had this you know, as I said, it's a swastika, coffee table, whatever, coffee pot. And they throw us out from Zagreb. They throw us out. And this is this picture is actually showing the moment now they're putting us on the train, and the police, and they're saying, go back to Slovenia to show your beauty, you know. Go back to Slovenia to show your beauty. That is not fighting. And here's the being and so on. This is but the style that we use for this painting. The style is actually authentic Croatian kind of naive art. They have a long tradition of naive art, and they paint on the glass on the back. And this is painted exactly on the glass on the back in the style of naive art. And this is one of our artworks that we did. One of the exhibitions that we had in Ljubljana. This is the audience round to the opening. One of the exhibitions that you can see, lots of merchandising, all kinds of. This one is nice. This is the T-shirt that we did. Yes, we are men, but we love our women. Anti-feminist. Artist perspective, another installation, floating tomb with Hitler's body in front of his favorite coffee drink. The hand of an artist in front of the Tate Modern, Bilbao, etc., etc. Exhibition that we did in Maribor. This was a poster that you can see everywhere. In Maribor we did the exhibition, and because you can see a lot of the people are looking what is that. Another exhibition in Zagreb, Sesina Kalmanovic, opening. This is a very nice gallery actually, it's a beautiful gallery. And the opening concept that we did. And you can see this painting once again. And then what we do, sometimes we do these small boxes, and they also depict a part, one part from the Laibach history, how we were, again, this is the moment when we were forced to leave Zagreb on the train, and so on. There's a guy who is making a selfie in front of his hero. This is a Croatian version of the painting on there, so as you can see. Children playing. This is interesting. We did one exhibition, and again, this coffee pot, and then we had these things here, like Marina Abramovic, and we were waiting what would happen, if anyone is going to use it and destroy the painting. And eventually, slowly, they realized that maybe that's what they can do, and we didn't let photographers in the gallery, but one part of the show was also it was hand painted from the show in Zagreb, hand painted from the photographies from 1983. You see, hand painted. And this is from the exhibition, from that exhibition where we exposed the swastika, and that's me and another member while they are torturing our painting at the back. And instead of a photographer, we had somebody who was sitting there in the corner and drawing what's happening in the room. And that's how they demolished the painting. But then we put it together. still alive, it even looks better. Okay, this is some other installations that we do occasionally, I guess. And the concert that we had in the mine city of Velenia for the miners. And these are the local politicians who came to our concert. They all had to wear helmets. 300 meters before the in the mine, you know. So that's the mayor, the first one is. Yeah. So this is in the church in Pula, a big exhibition. And we also did a concert at the same place. And for our members, it's not finished.
That's so good.
But this painting is called the Monumental Retro Avant-Garde. I have to say this. Here we are dressed in Nazi uniforms. I think it's a Nazi uniforms. But we also did a photo session with American uniforms at the same time, because we did a photo session for the album called VAR, and that's where we were discussing basically the Second World War, you know, the winners and the losers. So we have successfully dressed ourselves in these Nazi uniforms that we got from the the place that they use these uniforms for the films. And but we also dressed in uniforms of the British soldiers, and we did these sessions, American soldiers, and we dressed in Nazi uniforms. We went for a shopping in a big shopping center in Ljubljana. That was just opened, which was very funny. Shopping, and also people, the way they reacted. And then the guardians came, you know, how we call them, and they were dressed in uniforms. Huh?
Security people.
What? Security people. They were dressed in uniforms, and they said, you can't. What? You can't make pictures here. And we said, we're not making pictures. Other people are making pictures of us. We came for shopping. As you can see. And then the painting was created, also the big painting of that photo that we almost sold for 250,000 euros of this exhibition. You see the price here? That's finally they changed their mind. This is the project that we did. Okay, it's all about we're doing something in Iran, symphony orchestra. We did something with Picasso. It's too much. This is quite a big thing. You know, the next week we have another exhibition in Slovenia, and we are showing this carpet that was created in Afghanistan by an Afghan family. This was precisely in the time when Americans left Afghanistan. And it's really fantastic. It's fantastic carpet. And the idea is, this was our, when we had a concert in Reina Sofia in Spain. And to mark that, we wanted to release the album, and we wanted to picture ourselves in front of the original Guernica by Picasso. But the Reina Sofia didn't make any problems, but Picasso's estate didn't allow us to use his work behind Laibach on the image. So we said, okay, we'll create our own one. And so we took a Slovenian partisan artist from the Second World War, and we took his graphic works and we put it in the same kind of relation. It's very similar. You see the hand, the light. You see the light. It's basically, we were looking for the same similar elements. And Picasso also has a horse. We have a horse. So it's it kind of reminds on chemical in a straight away. With the difference that this partisan artist actually was fighting in the war during the Second World War. So the fact that Afghan family has put together this fantastic carpet is just incredible. And because they received a really bad copy from us, it's a bad connection. They did it with lots of pixels. It's a pixelated art. You can't see it from here, but okay, the voice in a different place. These are American uniforms. And what we were doing, we were sending these photos around to press. As dressed in Nazi uniforms and as dressed in American uniforms. And we said, basically it's your choice whatever you're going to publish, and they always publish Nazi uniforms just to be able to say Laibach Nazis. And this is us playing jets for 4 up in the mountains in Slovenia, dressed in American uniforms. And on the Mark's grave. This is interesting. Our singer has become a character in this comic books, very popular comic books, and his name is von Bach. That's the singer, when he still looked, his body still looked quite good. And he became one of the characters of this Kingdom Come. Here you can see. That's him. I guess he's the only one that is using for him this German the German fonts. And he's actually killed by Wonder Woman. There are different uses of the character. Okay, this is North Korea. When we were in North Korea, this was a special story, and these are South Korean soldiers installing huge speakers on the border with North Korea, and we had a concert at the same time in North Korea. We were the strongest weapon of North Koreans against South Korean speakers. These are the really nice women tailors in North Korean tailors, and they created these dresses for us. These are basically civil clothes, North Korean civil clothes, very comfortable and very nice. It's and this North Korean pop band, we try to get in touch with them and to do concert together, but unfortunately not successfully. But they're really good. But we did perform sound of music to North Koreans because they actually know sound of music film. They learn English with the help of this film, which is also a film about theory of music, the sound of music. We released the whole album. As you can see, I was dressed in. And this is the way to dream of Laibach. That's exactly what we would like to be. But it's also, it's a funny story because this guy is called, in the film, it's a great American actor, by the way. Otherwise, check out him the name. He already died. But in the film, his surname is von Trapp, not Trump, but von Trapp. And these are his children and his beloved wife, and then this nun, Julie Andrews, is taking care of his children. And actually, von Trapp family, this guy, he really existed, and he existed. They lived in Pula, in Croatia and Istria, where we were going to go. There's still their house there, and then they moved from their house. He was a big naval officer in Gulag, working for the Austrian army, and later on they moved to Salzburg, and where the film is happening, and this is the end of the lecture.